Honestly, I believe that observability is needed from A to Z. From the time you develop to the time you launch, I always consider the observability and security, they look like insurance in the sense of behavior. I mean, I remember someone saying once, banking will never die, but banks may die.
Hi, welcome to a new episode of Observability Talk. Today, we are glad to have a special guest who joins us from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Osama bin Saleh Bukhari is the CEO of AlFaris International Group. He is also the head of the banking commissions for the Saudi International Chamber of Commerce. Osama had a distinguished career in leadership role in banking and financial services, including National Commercial Bank, Arab National Bank, and Banque Saudi Fransi. Hi, Osama. A warm welcome to you to Observability Talk podcast. My first question to you, Osama, is how has been the perception of technology, particularly in banking, payments, and e-commerce sectors, evolved in recent years in the Middle East? Are organizations becoming more open to startups and disruptive technology?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's really an honor and pleasure to be part of this wonderful, I would say, talk and initiative where we're bringing, I would say, knowledge and being open about what's happening in the business world. And I believe on a global scale, because I believe I've seen a couple of your invitees that have been from different industries and from different countries, and I'm happy to be here. Now, to address your first question, definitely we are in a changing world, and the world that we live in is definitely not the same that we lived in even, I would say, 5 years ago. Of course, especially with the evolution of AI and fintechs and the whole 9 yards of all the change and the rapid change and the digitalization. Definitely being part of the banking sector for a very long time, being an ex-banker. I remember, when the first thoughts of fintechs came about, the banks were definitely against them, and they did not want to cooperate and all this and that. But then they realized that it was something that is definitely happening, and there's no way that they can fight it, but really to live with it and create, I would say, an ecosystem where we depend on each other, and we need each other, because I believe the fintechs on their own cannot survive, and the big corporates and the big banks will never survive also without that. So I mean, I remember someone saying once, banking will never die, but banks may die. And what he meant, I believe, is that the banking as we know it will die, but definitely banking will always be there, because trading and banking will always be there no matter what, because at the end of the day, we need to exchange goods, need to exchange documents, we need to exchange currencies. So all of that is part of banking. And definitely there's more and more adaptation to fintechs across the board.
Very true, Osama. I think this is a good insight into how new startups, mainly fintech, right, in the banking or BFSI environment, is being received by these banks now. See, in your role, you have been leading a great business, right? And you would be talking to a lot of CXOs in Middle East region and maybe other regions as well. Um, what do you think are the number one or maybe couple of these things which are uh, always keeping these CXOs very worried about the technology and the business?
I would say what's keeping them worried is what keeps me worried. It's really cybersecurity more than anything else. With the increased digitalization, with the increased automation, comes a great problem called cybersecurity. It has always existed, but now, as we know, anything can be used for good or bad. a gun can be used by a police person or a law enforcement, can be used by a perpetrator or by a criminal. So the gun by itself is never good or bad. It's how we use it and when we use it and for what purpose. Same thing with cybersecurity, because even with AI and Gen AI, a lot of these I would say perpetrators are using that to penetrate and using AI to counter AI and counter the cybersecurity. So I would say cybersecurity is definitely on the highest level, and what we call observability, because if I am not aware of what's happening, I'm also unaware of the repercussions. So if I know that if something happens on the spot, even if it was something negative, but I'll be able to do an action that will correct it. But if I'm only aware of it at a later stage, that means the damages can be multiplied multiple times. So I would say, as a CXO or as a business person, two things: I need to know what is happening at any point of time, and am I secure enough? To me, I believe these two pillars are really important, and that's what's keeping all CXOs, I would say, on our toes.
Very true. I think these two technology has been obviously evolving for quite some time, and these are really becoming very critical for every digital price. So my next question is towards that. One of the major challenges any digital first business today is facing is to providing the best user experience and a consistent available application for their end customers, right? How do you see these enterprises in MEA region tackling this very critical issue for when they are doing these digital transformation initiatives?
Well, you see, the thing is with the user experience and the look and feel of apps is so subjective, because we are human beings and we are different, and it really doesn't matter what ethnic or religion or what background. I like the color blue, you like the color green, he likes the color red. No one will ever say, oh, you're wrong because you love that color. And what I see as appealing is not what you see appealing. So this is an extremely difficult area to really address and get everyone's, I would say, acceptance, and for especially the user experience. But because part of it is the look and feel, and that we can always put aside. But the user experience that we need to look at and focus on is the actual workflow. So is it easy to do? Is it intuitive enough? Is it, so whether it's color green or brown or whatever it is, or whatever background it has, if it's really functional, I'm going to be using it and I'm going to be happy. And that's what we see now. A lot of these applications, they have user defined preferences in terms of colors and schemes and everything, because I need to cater for that. I don't feel comfortable with the color blue. I can put it the color green or whatever it is. But the user journey is what really matters. So the user experience, when we talk about user experience, to me, it's really about the journey itself that needs to be well designed in a way that makes intuitive decisions made easily. And it shouldn't be complex. It shouldn't be, hard to use. And there's so many applications that we saw and we're seeing today that are so user friendly that users just jumped on them, and they're not the first or the last or even the best, but they just like provided the proper user journey.
Very interesting way of putting this together, Osama. Thank you so much. One very interesting point you made out was that it should be very easy and it should be seen as a journey. Like if somebody is interacting with your application or a mobile app, right? How you basically provide that workflow, what user is trying to do with your application, and how easy it is to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 and complete what they want to do in the best possible time without any errors, so that the overall user experience is very good. This is a
Sure.
very interesting way of putting this together. Thank you so much, Osama, for that. Now, coming to the second part to it, like, see, when applications are being delivered, these applications are hosted in a data center or in a cloud, right? And application architecture has been evolving. And so, our monitoring platform is also evolving to becoming observability. What are your thoughts on observability, especially business journey observability?
Of course. Well, honestly, I believe that observability is needed from A to Z. From the time you develop to the time you launch to the user experience. Where do we see users being stuck? Where are they spending the most time? Are they spending the most time in an area where I expect them to spend time? Or are they spending a time in a screen where it shouldn't take long time? Because then it would tell me that that screen is complex and that screen is not delivering what it's supposed to deliver. So that the entire I would say again journey from a application owner or from the business owner, that journey from A to Z need to be honestly done in a using the observability technology, so that I know where the problems are coming from or where the good stuff. Because I also need to know what is the most used product, what is the most sold product, in what region. For an example, if I find that I have a product X that is being used in region Y and my factory is in region Z, maybe then that will push me to push the factory and really locate the factory, because that's where something like that will never happen without observability and having the proper. So data sciences today is really crucial, and having all the data and process in the right way for me to make a decision is crucial today. And that's what will make, honestly, businesses thrive and do better if they really have a good. And when they say, information is power, everyone says that, but do they really understand what it means? Honestly, this is what it means: is that you have all the information, all the ingredients to make the decision, not to keep the information to yourself and say, no, it's mine, I'm not going to give it to anyone else. That these times are over.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Just picking up on one of the point which you mentioned early on, right? That observability is something which you should start when you are still developing, right?
Yes.
And that is one of the thing which we are also communicating with our customers more often now, that observability and security has always been an afterthought, right? Once the application is developed and deployed, and then you start thinking, oh, I need to figure out how my application is performing and if there is a challenge there, right? Now, with the advancement of this observability, we are talking about, why don't application developers or application teams start looking at observability as early as they write the first line of code, right? Which will make sure that they make their application more observable. uh, are you also seeing something like this happening in MEA region, where enterprises are developing their own application?
You're absolutely spot on. And to me, I truly believe in observability. And in the different forums that I speak in, I always like to use real life examples just to make things more relevant, to the entire audience, not to a certain tech savvy audience. I always consider or make the observability and security. I always say they look like insurance in the sense of behavior, right? You want to insure, and let's take a car insurance for an example. You don't insure a car after you've driven it for such a long time and all what's happening, and then you have an accident, right? And say, and now I need to insure the car. No, it's way too late. You cannot insure a car after you've had the accident. And the earlier you do the insurance, the less even the premium will be, because the car is new. You're someone who has no history of accidents. So when I apply the insurance, that means, God forbid, when something goes wrong, the insurance is going to protect me. I mean, with a caveat of a huge difference between the two, but it's just, for people to understand, it is as important. Or like health insurance, God forbids, if I'm going through normal sickness and all this and that, a common cold, that's fine. But God forbids, if I need a major surgery or something like that, that's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if I'm not under a proper medical insurance, I'm not going to be able to do that. Think of observability and cybersecurity of the same level, if not more important, because if something goes wrong and I'm hacked, or if I'm unaware of something that is going wrong and it's too late, that the repercussion is going to be ampled multiple times. And that's why, it's extremely important that we do that at an early stage. And honestly, I am seeing that, and especially, with the evolution of the low code, no code platforms, they build that into the I would say, in the platform itself. It becomes more observable, and ready to connect. And, with all the APIs that we're using today in different aspects, observability is definitely becoming more apparent and more needed.
No, very interesting way of giving some sort of simile in terms of how insurance actually looks similar to what observability and cybersecurity are. In fact, for some of the customers, we do talk about the revenue leakage which they have. And because of that, the price they are paying of not having observability in place is very
Absolutely.
huge, right?
Absolutely.
Moreover, like you said, right, it also impacting their business brand and the end user experience, which is somewhere you cannot quantify it, but the impact may be multi-million dollars on the enterprise
Absolutely.
business.
Absolutely.
One last question, Osama, on the favorite topic of most of the people today, the Gen AI, right? How generative AI or chat GPTs of the world are, how do you think businesses in MEA region or worldwide are going to be adopting this new fascinating technology?
Sure. Well, again, it's something that I talk about in multiple forums. And honestly, on a personal level, I truly believe that it's bringing more harm than good today, because of how we're using it, not because of the technology is great. Again, let's use as an example of the gun. The gun can be horrible and can be disastrous and cause millions of lives to be lost unnecessarily. But at the same time, it can be for good because it's protecting you and all this and that. And it's for, the law enforcement use it in the right way. So talking about Gen AI and as you said, ChatGPT, and because it's easily influenced by the data that is available, that's where I say we have to be extremely careful. So if I controlled my data and I sanitize my data, then definitely Gen AI, and even before that, even normal AI is superb and it's excellent and it will make my life easy. But as we always say, garbage in, garbage out. If the data was wrong, then I'm going to get even more innovative wrong things, I would say. So let's say like someone like myself who is, again, I would say part of ICC, and I'm part of the, head of the banking commission for a number of years on all this and that. I can bombard the internet on different social medias with an idea that I believe is correct and may not be correct at all. And I'm pushing my agenda. And guess what? Gen AI will definitely pick that up and say, oh, by the way, Osama said that and it must be right. And if Gen AI says that I was right, you will just immediately believe that it's right. Not because you're looking at what I'm saying, take it, analyzing it yourself and make that decision for yourself. So this is the biggest problem, if it's general data that is available on the internet, honestly, we have to be very careful in how we utilize that, because as we know, Gen AI can create even fictitious data, fictitious quotes and fictitious people, right? It's part of that code. But if we use it for the automation, where anything repetitive, as we stand today, anything repetitive can be replaced by an automation, whether it's robotics, RPAs, or AI in general, or Gen AI. Having said that, that means there's a lot of good use cases, because when I control the data, especially if we use it in, again, in making, let's say, decisions in the banking sector, and making credit decisions, AI can really help me do a lot of good things, because the data, I'm feeding the data into the module, because I'm not going to create fictitious data. So it's a financial data of that entity, and whatever the social media is talking about that person, then GenAI can help me make a better decision. So that becomes really good. Or in the medical field, where
Right.
the reading, and I've been talking about something beyond just of course using Gen AI, but it's beyond what we call IoT, the Internet of Things, but really the Internet of Behaviors, IOB, where you take a lot of feed, which is the data from the IoT, from the cameras, from the wearables, all this and that, and that can feed into a medical system that can make you a decision. It can save lives in a great way, because before a person has, let's say, a heart attack, God forbid, there are so many signs the body is sending, because we are not aware of them. We're not going to be able to know that. But if those are being fed into a system, the system will definitely know that this person is about to have a heart attack, so we can save their life, and not until they have the heart attack, and then so in that sense, definitely Gen AI is powerful, beautiful, and it's going to be used more and more. All I'm saying is that please make sure that you have the sanitized data to be able to do that. Again, I will use another example, and if I say Ferraris are great or Lamborghinis are great, but if the roads are not great, you're not going to be able to use them. You're not going to be able to
Right.
and where am I going to use them? And that's also also the question. If it's a congested road, a Ferrari is as good as a bicycle. Actually, a bicycle may be even more useful than a Ferrari. So we really need to know. It's not one size fits all. It's not one thing that is good for everything. We really need to understand our needs, our requirements, and deploy what is best for our requirements. And that doesn't mean always buying the most expensive or the most advanced in terms of AI, because then you're really, as I always say, and it's a doctor, God bless his soul, who has passed away when I was much younger, and I would say, you're killing a bird with a cannon. Some doctors use really heavy medications to remedy a simple issue. So don't kill birds with cannons. Use the right tools for the right places.
This is extremely well thought out, Osama. Thank you so much for this insight on GenAI. Really amazing. Before I let you go, Osama, I would like to ask you uh, your favorite business book, which you would like to recommend to our audience, what you believe is a must have for people in business.
Ah, there's so many of them, and I honestly don't want to pinpoint one, because I'm not promoting any book. Of course, I haven't not written anything, or have any association with any books. But honestly, even when you talk about books and experiences, it's always that experience of that individual in those circumstances. Honestly, my biggest book that I go back to, and it's someone who taught me when I was in early ages in my career, when I was still a young banker. Always revisit your assumptions. I believe this is the biggest learner, because your assumptions were always, I can almost say 100% correct at a certain time, at a certain condition. But these may not be the same conditions, the same times. So by following a book blindly, honestly, I do not. Yeah, it is good to read all about. There's so many of them that we talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all these the usual suspects. But honestly, read them to give you insight, but you need to make that call yourself and revisit your assumptions always. because again, I don't want to take too long of your time, but let me just tell you, and I'm sure a lot of people heard about the story, and I'm going to make it in a very short way. The monkey with the bananas, that experience, which is when they brought four monkeys and they put a banana, like on the roof or on the ceiling, sorry, and every time a monkey wanted to take the banana, the sprinkler system would spray water on the monkeys, so they learned not to go near the bananas. But then when they removed one of the monkeys and brought in a fresh monkey, that fresh monkey wanted to go to get the banana. Everyone started beating him up because they didn't want to be wet again, because they don't like being wet. And then when they removed one more monkey and they brought another fresh monkey, guess what? The fresh monkey that was just introduced also beat up that monkey. He doesn't know why. It's just because he saw the others doing it. And until the entire four original monkeys that knew what was going on were replaced, and still they was doing the same behavior. And guess what? They even turned off the sprinkler system. So if any of them would have went and tried to get the banana, they would have gotten the banana. But because this is what they got used to. And honestly, this is what I say. Revisit your assumptions, because those assumptions were correct. And I don't think any of us wants to be wrong. Nobody wants to be deliberately wrong. You made that assumption. You made that decision at a certain time where you thought you were right. And I think this is my biggest learner. And I would say, please revisit your assumptions.
Thank you, Osama. This is something really amazing. I mean, your examples, the way you connect two completely disjointed thing and explain things, it's really amazing. Thank you so much for all these wonderful insights on digital transformation, importance of observability, cybersecurity, and whole lot of other things. Thank you so much for your time, Osama.
You're most welcome. And just one last thing I would like to say is, please, and this is for the new people that are coming about, or who wants to develop software or solutions. Excuse me. Do not just develop something for the sake of developing. Are you addressing an actual issue? Are you actually addressing a problem? I mean, you could come up with a software that is so beautiful, so innovative and everything, but it's not really addressing a problem. You have to resolve a problem. And that's why we can see a huge number of fintechs failing and going belly up, because they did not really address an issue in the right way. They were just doing something different for the sake of being different. If you have endless pockets, deep pockets, yeah, maybe it's part of R&D. But if you're really building a business, you have to address an issue. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble, and you're gonna go out of funds very quickly. And that's my 2 cents. And thank you for having me. And it was such a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, Osama. Really great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A big thank you for joining us at Observability Talk. Please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. If you found this insightful, helpful, share it with someone who might have a similar experience. For more information about us, visit us at www.unitsystems.com. Thank you.